Welcome back to another episode of Can I Make It Healthier? And today I'll be attempting to make the Cheesecake Factory spicy chipotle pasta healthier. My version has a third of the calories of the original Cheesecake Factory one, a higher volume of veggies, a fraction of the sodium, and 80% less fat. The first step of making our honey glazed chicken is going to be to prepare the chicken. To do that, add the cubed chicken to a bowl and mix it up with a bunch of spices like garlic powder, paprika, chili powder, cumin, and salt. And don't worry, I went ahead and wrote out all the measurements and the ingredients on my website, and the link is in the description. Once the chicken is coated in the spices, just set that aside and move on to the veggies. The original Cheesecake Factory recipe uses asparagus and peas, which are both two of my least favorite vegetables, so I just opted to use mushrooms and red bell pepper. To saute them, add about 1 tablespoon of oil to a saucepan, and then first add the mushrooms. I saute that until it gets soft and releases some of the water, and then I add in the chopped bell pepper and saute everything for about 3 to 4 minutes or until everything gets softened. And the chipotle sauce for this recipe is so good, so you can go ahead and swap the veggies for whatever you want, because no matter what, it's going to end up delicious. Once it's all softened, just set it aside in the bowl and we're going to get back to the chicken. And while you're transferring the veggies to a bowl, don't turn off your saucepan. Keeping the saucepan on and nice and hot means you can add the chicken back into it without any extra oil. And even if a little bit of the spices get stuck to the pan, you can just add a small splash of water to bring all the flavor back and stuck to the chicken. So I personally use the trick of adding liquid to a hot pan pretty often because it makes sure you don't waste any of those flavor bits. Once the chicken is completely cooked, turn the heat to high and add in the honey. Then cook it for an additional minute just to let it get extra sticky. Once the honey thickens, that's pretty much all for the honey glazed chicken, so you can go ahead and set that aside. Now it's time to move on to my favorite part, the spicy chipotle sauce. So from what I understand, the way that Cheesecake Factory makes this sauce is by using heavy cream, but for this recipe, we're going to use a technique that's pretty common for making a bechamel white sauce. So basically what you're going to do is add some butter to a saucepan and let that melt. Then I add in a little bit of minced garlic and saute it until you can basically smell a nice garlicky aroma. And then you're going to add in some all-purpose flour and 2 teaspoons of water. You want to let that whole thing kind of form a paste, which is called the roux, and going to be super important to thicken the sauce. If it's your first time making a roux, it's going to feel kind of awkward at first. But basically, you want to let it all clump together and form sort of a paste. So the benefit of doing it this way instead of using heavy cream is that we can use milk, which ends up with a much lighter and not so heavy feeling. First, add about half a cup of milk and let that thicken. And if there are any clumps of flour, just use your spatula to smash them down. Then you're going to go ahead and add in the remaining 1 cup of milk. Then you're going to add the remaining milk and turn the heat down to medium if it's not already there. Give everything a stir, and once again, if there are any clumps, just make sure to smash them down. Then to this, add the chopped up chipotle peppers, adobo sauce, chili powder, and paprika. So if you've never cooked with a canned chipotle chilies, first of all, I highly recommend it, especially for Mexican food, because it adds an extra smoky flavor. I personally use it all the time to make my adobo chicken tacos, and the recipe for that is on my website. But anyways, you're going to find the canned chipotle chilies in almost any grocery store in the Hispanic or Mexican foods aisle. Cook the pasta sauce on medium heat and let it thicken into a creamy consistency, kind of like what you see on the screen. Taste the sauce and add in an extra pinch of salt if needed, the sauteed veggies from before, cheese, and some cooked pasta. Give everything a really good stir and let all the flavors really marry together. And if it looks a little watery from the extra pasta water that drained into it, just let it cook until it thickens up. So I actually personally let some of the extra pasta water drip into the sauce and then cook that off for a little bit longer. As it cooks off, the starchiness of the pasta water makes the sauce extra creamy. Then once the pasta looks good, it's time to add in the honey glazed chicken from before. You can either serve it over the pasta or just toss it in and mix it together. Top that off with some freshly chopped cilantro and it's ready to eat. And like I said before, the full recipe for this spicy chipotle chicken pasta is on my website and linked below in the description.